Hello, and welcome to the 20th episode in our Pharmacy Calculations practice series. All right, now we had several questions come into us from one of our students. We're going to address all of them here in today's episode. And the first one asks us, how many milliliters of a 60% solution and a 20% solution are required to make 500 milliliters of a 45% solution? Now, in this question, just like any question that gives you two different concentrations of a solution and asks you to compound something with a concentration somewhere in between the two, you're going to solve this using alligation. It's the easiest way to do this. And anytime we want to use this method, we set up a tic-tac-toe diagram. And we start with the higher concentration we have on hand in the upper left-hand corner. So in that case, it's going to be the 60% solution. Our lower concentration goes in the bottom left, and our desired concentration goes right in the middle. The next step is to take our higher concentration, subtract our desired concentration, and we put that value down here in the bottom right. So 60 minus 45 is 15. Then we're going to take our lower concentration and subtract that from our desired concentration. And we're going to write that number in the upper right-hand corner. All right, so what these two numbers on the right tell us are, in the case of the upper, 25 parts of 60% solution for every 15 parts of 45% solution. So that means we have a total of 40 parts. So 25 parts of that 40 will be 60%, and 15 parts of that 45%, 15 out of 40 of those parts will be 45%. So if we need to make 500 milliliters of a 45% solution, we can figure out how much of that 60% to make by taking 500 milliliters and multiplying it by that fraction of parts. So 25 parts out of every 40 parts is going to be 60%, remember. So 500 multiplied by 25 divided by 40 equals 312.5 milliliters. Now we can do the same thing for the 45% solution, but we can also just subtract 312.5 from 500 milliliters, since we already know we're using this much of the 60%. So 500 minus 312.5 equals 187.5 milliliters. So that's 312.5 milliliters of 60% and 187.5 milliliters of 45%. Any questions about this? Feel free to follow up on our Facebook group page or shoot us an email. All right, so our next question states that the ratio of compounded betamethasone 0.1% and ketoconazole 2%, 60 grams, is 1 to 2. How much of each drug should be added to the compound? Now, I'm going to make the assumption when they're talking about a ratio of 1 to 2, they're talking about that in terms of volume of each of these creams or ointments or whatever they are. They could technically be asking or providing a ratio of weight of active ingredient. That would be a little more complicated to solve, so we'll go with the easier assumption here. Now, anytime you're dealing with a ratio that's expressed as a number colon another number, that's telling you how many parts of one versus how many parts of the other. So in this example, you got 1 part of betamethasone for every 2 parts of ketoconazole. That also means that you have 3 total parts, because you've got 1 part of one plus 2 parts of another. So to be able to calculate how much of each drug, you're simply going to multiply the total volume which in this case, or total weight of this cream or ointment or whatever it is 60 grams. And you take the ratio of each individual ingredient in terms of total parts and multiply it by that total weight or volume. So betamethasone is 1 part to every 3, or out of 3 total parts, times 60 grams. And 1/3 of 60 is 20 grams. And then our ketoconazole is 2 parts for every 3 total parts, times 60 grams equals, and that'll be 40. And then obviously these two together should make a total of 60 grams. So remember, all you have to do is take this ratio, add those two numbers together to get your total number of parts, and then multiply your weight or volume by the fraction of parts of each individual ingredient. So I hope that was a good explanation. If you need any further explanation on this, feel free to follow up with us. All right, our last question asks, if solution 1 and solution 2 are combined at a ratio of 3:1 to make a compounded solution, what volume of each substance is required to make a 250 milliliter mixture? Now this is kind of similar to the previous question in that we have a ratio here of 3:1, which means we have 4 total parts. So solution 1 is 3 parts out of 4, and the volume is going to be 250 milliliters. And let me see. So 3/4 times 250 equals 187.5 milliliters. And then solution 2 equals 1 part out of every 4 parts times 250 milliliters. And that will be 62.5 milliliters. So your answer will be 187.5 milliliters of solution 1 and 62.5 milliliters of solution 2. And you can check your work by adding these together and making sure that it totals 250 milliliters. So I hope these solutions were helpful. If you have any questions whatsoever, whether they involve these calculations or some other examples you've come across, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or via email, and we'll be happy to help.